Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Y'all, today I'm here to give you a very highly requested review for one of the most highly anticipated books I feel for this entire year for a whole lot of people in the book community. It is The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. Elena Armas is back with her second novel after her smash hit debut, The Spanish Love Deception. I must say right off the bat, I am so proud of this girl, so proud of this woman, this star. She started out as an Instagrammer, a bookstagrammer, and she decided to write a romance novel, and this thing took the world by freaking storm. I swear, like, I think the timing of everything was just so perfect with Book Talk, like, taking off. I will not, like, discredit her in any way by saying that, but it was at, like, the height of Book Talk. This book came out, everyone was talking about it, and it seriously was one of the most read, most talked about, most reviewed books of last year. I literally still, to this day, see it every single day scrolling through my Instagram feed. So obviously when Elena Armas came out with her second book, which is essentially a spin-off of this book, a lot of people were excited, including myself. I knew for sure that I was gonna read it as soon as I heard about it. I was very intrigued by the concept, and I just knew I had to check it out. So I have read it, and I'm here today to talk to you guys all about it. I want to start off and give my little spoiler-free synopsis that I always do in these videos, and then after that, I want to kind of give my thoughts on it, dive a little deeper, and then compare it to The Spanish Love Deception, just my thoughts on how the two stories connect, the tropes within each of them, how they differ, all those things. But yeah, guys, I got a lot to say, so let's just get into it. So this story follows this girl named Rosie, and Rosie has a whole lot of things going on in her life right now. The main thing is she's making some career moves, and by that I mean she's leaving behind her very stable, well-paying job as a consultant at an engineering firm to become a full-time writer. She has had this stable job for many years, but it never really fulfilled her, and in her free time she wrote a romance novel under a pen name, and it essentially just took off like in a way that she never expected, and she was offered a book deal, and you know, she just decided to take the plunge. It's been her dream, but it's obviously a very scary thing to leave behind the stability of an office job to go and write and do something that is not guaranteed, but Rosie has decided she's going to do it. So this now means that she has to be serious. She has a second book that she is contracted to do, and she has a deadline that she has to get her manuscript in. So she has dove headfirst into that, but she is seriously struggling. The words are not coming to her in the way that the first romance novel did. Like, she just feels like she's in this strange funk. Also, her best friend, who we know from The Spanish Love Deception, Lena, she just got married. Like, she's had this whirlwind romance, but Rosie herself just hasn't experienced that. She's had a lot of trouble in the dating world. She's been on all the apps, and you know, she loves writing romance because she gets to like create these scenarios, but she's just been in the dumps lately, and it hasn't been a good time, and romance is just hard for her to write at the moment. So things are already tough in that department, but on top of that now, everything just seems to be going wrong because the ceiling in her apartment in New York City, it just caved in. It completely caved in. There's a hole in her ceiling. She cannot live there. So she needs to find another place to stay. And luckily, her best friend Lena just so happens to be out of the city right now. She is on her honeymoon with her new husband, and they essentially live together at this point. So she is like, okay, I'm just gonna go stay in Lena's apartment for a few days, a week, whatever it takes until I can get my apartment fixed. I know where her spare key is. I'm just gonna go and crash there. I don't have time to figure this out. So she goes and she does that, but she does not know that while she's planning to crash here, Lena has already promised the apartment to someone else. Her cousin Lucas is coming to New York from Spain. He is a professional surfer. He's been a really successful professional surfer for a long time, but he also has a lot of things going on in his life right now, and he's kind of in the mode of needing a reset. He just kind of needs to get away for a while, so he is spending 3 months in the US, and he is spending the final 6 weeks of those 3 months in New York City, and he is staying at Lena's studio apartment, her very small 1-bedroom studio apartment. And so Rosie is there when he shows up, and they find themselves at an impasse because Rosie needs a place to stay, but this place has been promised to Lucas. She's like, oh my God, I'll go to a hotel. I'll just figure it out. Hotels in New York are very expensive. Long story short, they essentially decide that they'll just figure it out, they'll crash there together. And this idea sounds all fine and good. I mean, there's a couch and a bed, but Rosie isn't sure how to feel about this because she is very aware of Lucas. They have never met in person, but she knows all about him. She has been kind of stalking him online for a very long time. I mean, he is her best friend's cousin. He's a professional surfer. Like, he's just come up, and you know, knowing that Lena and Aaron were gonna be getting married, she was really hoping that she was gonna run into her super hot surfer cousin at Lena's wedding. So Rosie has had this sort of like fascination and a little bit of an obsession. You know, we all Instagram stalk from time to time. I promise it's not creepy, but point is, she knows all about Lucas, so he is the absolute last person she expects to come crashing through the apartment door. So now they're in these close confines, and she just doesn't know how to feel about that. Lucas is just very charming, obviously very good looking. They mesh pretty quickly. I mean, he is, again, just like a charmer, and he can pretty much get along with anybody. But, you know, being in such close quarters, obviously, you know, things come out, they start to bond, they learn a little bit more about each other. So Lucas very quickly becomes aware of Rosie's current predicament. Aside from her roof that is caved in her apartment, he knows that she is a writer and she is struggling to write her next book. He overhears a conversation that she's having with Lena about how she's struggling in this romance department. So they know they're gonna be spending some time together over the next couple of weeks in this apartment together, but Lucas is gonna be in New York for the next 6 weeks, and he doesn't have a ton of things planned besides the basic tourist stuff. So he basically comes up with a proposition that he will help her. You know, Lena suggests to Rosie that she should get back on the dating apps and just get out there, and maybe if she forces herself to go on some dates, she'll kind of, I don't know, revive her love of romance, like get some inspiration. But Lucas is like, no, sister, you don't need to do all that. I'll help you out. Like, I'll fake date you to try to kind of inspire you to write more of your book and get your deadline finished on time. So this, obviously, as we can expect, being a trope that is fairly common in books, we know, and just in life, you know, these lines get blurred real fast. It's real hard to be in a situation like this without feelings getting had or lines being crossed, and somebody is often bound to get hurt. So we go on this journey with Rosie and Lucas, basically living in this apartment together, kind of fake dating each other, trying to help Rosie write the best romance book that she can. And each of them obviously have a whole lot of things going on in their own life, and there's very quickly a time limit coming up, both for Rosie to get her book done and for Lucas to have to go back to Spain. It's just a whole lot going on, and that is essentially what this story is about. Now I just want to get more into my thoughts about it. So, I mean, overall, I want to say I really liked it. It sucked me in right from the beginning. This story doesn't have any type of lead up. I mean, you literally start with like Rosie's in the apartment, Lucas is outside the door knocking on it, trying to get in. Like, it's very easy to get sucked into this story. Lucas totally was a charmer. Like, I am totally here for a fake dating moment at all times. Like, I thought the concept was really cute. I loved seeing Rosie's story because I know that it is so personal to Elena. Like, I love seeing personal elements of an author's real life in their stories. Like, I just think it makes it come off as so genuine, because I know, having followed Elena for quite a while now, that she was working at an engineering firm just like Rosie, just like Lena, when she wrote The Spanish Love Deception, and then this book took off and now she is a full-time writer. Like, she left her engineering job, her steady job, to go be a full-time romance writer just like Rosie is. And so I'm sure that this obviously was very much inspired by her real life, and you could tell that she was putting so much of herself into this story, and I'm sure so many of her insecurities and fears going along with that. So I felt that I was able to connect to Rosie super easily, because I felt like I was simply connecting to Elena and her life story. It wasn't someone that she was writing, like she was just putting herself into it. At least that's what I assume. But yeah, knowing that background, it made me like, it just made me smile seeing those parts of this story. And then, you know, like the fake dating element, it's funny. fake dating, and honestly every trope, like they all have so many nuances to them, right? Like typically when I read a fake dating story, they are usually an enemies to lovers situation, which is how the Spanish love deception was, right? Like Aaron and Lena were enemies, and usually like fake dating, it's for some sort of like mutual benefit or convenience, and it's usually because you're trying to make people around you think you're dating, like it's for the sake of the public, which is how this story was. Again, like Lena had to make her family believe she was in a relationship, like it benefited her for Aaron to go with her to the wedding in Spain. Like that is typically how I feel a fake dating story goes, and especially a fake dating story that I can eat up and the type that I really like. But this fake dating story was a little bit different because it wasn't at all for the sake of the public. Like Rosie and Lucas didn't pretend to fake date for anybody else to see, for anybody to get jealous. Like it was simply just between the two of them, like pretending to go on these dates, pretending to charm one another so that Rosie could write her book. And when I realized that's what it was gonna be, I was like, like I don't know if this is gonna give me like the same type of flavor that it is when it's in the public. Because I feel like what's so cool about like a fake dating story when it's in front of other people is it's like, okay, we're putting on an act for other people, so you never know if like the little touches are for the people watching or if they're just for you. Like I just feel like it makes it so much more intense, where like this, it's like they were always kind of alone together when they were going on their fake dates. So I'm like I don't know, it's just a different vibe. So I didn't know if I was gonna love it, but I think it was honestly so well done. Like the way that this story, just like the pacing of it, and towards the end when everything started to get really real, it made my heart hurt. And I feel like honestly for a lot of personal reasons, this story just like made my heart freaking hurt. Like I honestly shed a few tears at the end of it because like the situation was just so like frustrating, but ending of it just made me so happy. It was so good. I thought it was so beautiful. Again, I just feel like it was a lot more emotional and personal to Elena. I really liked it. There were some aspects of it that I didn't love. I didn't like some of the drama that was happening with Rosie's family. There's a situation with her brother where he has this whole like side story happening as a part of this book. And I don't know, like I almost wonder, because it was so talked about, like I wonder if she's planning to write a book focused on him, because it almost seemed that way. It seemed like it was hinting at that's gonna be like the next spin-off story. And if that's the case, I'll forgive it. But if he's never gonna come up again, I'm like, why? Like it just seemed like such an unnecessary part of the story. Like I didn't get the point of it, and it was just so heavily mentioned, and I felt like it just like took away, and I'm like, what is the point of this? So I'm holding out because I feel like that's the case. And if that's the case, I'll take this all back. But yeah, I didn't love that aspect. And in the middle, I did think it was like a little bit slow, but I'm telling you, like the beginning and then towards the end, I just was like flying through this book. And by the end of it, I think I liked it better than the Spanish Love Deception. It's so hard to say because I just honestly feel like the concept of this story is so much more like up my alley. Again, like the enemies to lovers, the workplace romance, like the traveling, like everything about this story is way more something that I would usually go for. Friends to lovers, when it's like adult friends to lovers that don't have like a ton of childhood history, like that is not usually my thing. And again, the fake dating in this story, the way that it was different than this one, like it's not something I would usually go for. But the difference in these two books is I can so clearly see how much Elena's writing matured in this story. Like I just think her writing was so much better. Like the flow of the story was so much better. Like the spicy scenes of this were just like, oh my god. One thing about the Spanish Love Deception that I just like really couldn't stand was the spice was like good, but the dialogue, like I found some of it to be really cringy, and like it was like half of it I was like ooh super invested, and half of it I was like ugh, it was giving me the ick. No ick in this book whatsoever. The slow burn of how it built up, how we were given literal crumbs, like by the time anything happened you were like literally clenching the book. You're like, come on. Like there were just so many times that you thought things were gonna happen, and then you get held out longer and longer and longer, and then when everything came to a head, it was so worth it. It was so good. Such an improvement there, and I was just like, oh my god. It just overall, I can see vast improvement in her writing from this story to this story. So part of me like wishes that they were reversed, because I'm like, oh my god, if I could get, not that the Spanish Love Deception was horrible, like I did like this book, I just didn't feel like I had the deep obsession with it that a lot of other people had, but I think a lot of that has to do with the circumstance that I read it in. I read it back to back with The Hating Game because I wanted to do a book battle reading vlog comparing the two, because they have a lot of similarities, and if you guys have watched me for any amount of time, you know The Hating Game is my favorite rom-com of all time. So obviously like reading the two back to back, like it was hard. It was hard for me because like all the things that happened in the Spanish Love Deception, not all of them, but a lot of them happened in The Hating Game, and I just like liked him a little better. But obviously I've had time to sit with this and think back on the Spanish Love Deception, and I liked it. I thought it was good, but it just wasn't, like, for me, it wasn't like this mind-blowing 5-star read that I feel like it is for a lot of people. But all of that is to say, I feel like if they were switched and the new, you know, sophomore novel writing Elena Armas wrote the Spanish Love Deception all over again, I think it would have just been like the most perfect book in the entire world, which I feel like book number 3 is gonna be that case for me. But I'm kind of going off the rails here. All of this is to say, I really liked this book. I thought it was really good. It was something a little bit different. It was a little more sweet and wholesome and emotional. I feel like so many books nowadays are enemies to lovers, which we love, but this is something that's a little bit different. And you know, Rosie had my whole heart. Lucas had my heart. Like, he was just such goals. Like, the things that he did for Rosie, it just warmed my heart. One thing that I want to say that I feel like she did so well is I really loved Lena and Aaron's involvement in this story. I felt like it was the perfect balance where if you've read the Spanish Love Deception, you totally knew who they were, you loved them. Every time they popped up, you were like, yes, excited about it. But if you hadn't read the Spanish Love Deception, it still made sense. Like, they were the perfect side characters. You didn't really need any sort of like previous information about them to get it. And also, I just want to say, I loved Lena in this story. I honestly think I liked her better as a side character than I did a main character, which may be horrible to say, but she was just so awesome in this book. Like, I thought she was such a good friend to Rosie. I loved her relationship with Lucas. I loved the bridge she made between the two of them, being Rosie's best friend and being Lucas's cousin. Like, he's her closest cousin. So her being in the middle of what's happening between the two of them, like, it was super funny. It was heartwarming at times. Like, I just thought she was so perfect in this story, and I just thought it was really well done, because I don't know, sometimes you read books that are spin-offs or that connect to each other, and if you haven't read the previous book, you're so confused. You don't know who these people are. Like, it's just too much lore that you've missed out on, which I feel like most people reading this probably have read the Spanish Love Deception, but still, I just think that's something nice to point out. I like when authors don't like make you have to read all their books, and if they can still make all the characters make sense and stand on their own in each of the books rather than making you have to read both of them, like, I just think that's a plus. I really, really liked it. I was really impressed with it. Like, I'm so happy to see the growth here, and I'm so happy to see what else Elena Armas is gonna write. I will 100% be reading it, reviewing it. I'm here for the long haul. But yeah, guys, if you read The American Roommate Experiment, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. I would love to hear if you liked it better than the Spanish Love Deception, if you agree that you feel like the writing has matured, all the things you have to say. But yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.